It's July 6th, 2021, Tuesday. A corrections officer walks down a hallway in a state penitentiary in Tampa, Florida. He has done this walk before. He knows what it means. The man at the end of it knows what it means too. This is Alberto Flores, 44 years old, and he's going to be executed for first-degree murder. For the last time, the officer looks at Alberto with an unreadable expression and delivers the last words the man expects to hear in that room. Flores, you're going home. Neither of them knew how that sentence became possible, but the answer wasn't anywhere inside that prison. It was the place they least expected it. It's late at the precinct. The detective, Paul McConnell, is going through what he has. It was his first month on the job and his first case, and he has been working through the file the way he had been taught. Inside the folder were 3 photographs. The point of entry was a side window on the ground floor of the Cayo residence, forced from the outside with no broken glass, just a popped latch. Clean enough that it suggested either experience or luck. Inside the living room was the victim. Richard Cayo, who was 51 and retired, was found with a single stab wound to the chest and no signs of struggle. The knife used on him was a kitchen blade, 8 inches long. Paramedics found it on the floor at 11:58 p.m. and sealed it as evidence. By then, police had already detained Alberto Flores 3 blocks away. A lab report later confirmed that the fingerprints on the handle belonged to him. He also had the victim's blood on his shirt and in his jacket pocket. Officers found a gold necklace belonging to the victim's wife. For a detective in his first month on the job, the case looked straightforward. Alberto Flores broke into the house, stole a gold necklace, and stabbed Richard Cayo when he got caught. And if there was any doubt left, there was also Alberto's statement.
I just stole them. Please believe me. I didn't kill them.
He clicked it off. McConnell had heard that before. A suspect caught with the weapon, the blood, and the stolen jewelry would almost always say the same thing. Marco Flores was 9 when his father was arrested. By the time he turned 11, a jury had already sentenced Alberto to death. Now he's 21. Just visited my dad. 12 years, and he still says the same thing. I believe him. Marco grew up visiting his dad behind glass, watching lawyers stop returning calls, and watching people who say they believed in Alberto quietly disappear one by one until there was nobody left. Nobody, except him. He had tried everything a person without money or connections could try. Letters to lawyers that went unanswered. Emails to journalists that bounced back. A Change.org petition that got 14 signatures and went nowhere. Still, the case file lived permanently in the corner of his screen. He had read it enough times that most of it no longer surprised him. The photographs, the arrest report, the evidence list, and the trial transcripts. But there was one thing he kept opening. Officer Rail's report. In that report was Alberto's recorded statement. I went inside and saw him on the floor. The knife was in his chest. I pulled it out. I don't know why. I just panicked. But before I ran, I swear I saw someone else there. A man, just for a second. Every prison visit, Alberto told the same story. Marco believed him, but he just couldn't prove it. Everyone had also heard it during the trial. And yet the investigators never seriously pursued the possibility that someone else had been in that house. The evidence against Alberto was strong. For years, Marco had read the file searching for something, anything, that might support what his father saw that night. He didn't find anything until he read the forensic report again, and one line started looking different. No signs of struggle. But after 12 years of closed doors, he knew the authorities weren't going to listen to him. So, for the first time, he stopped asking the right people. Not sure if this is the right place, but hypothetically, if a stranger breaks into your home, wouldn't you fight back? So if a murder victim showed zero signs of struggle, how did a stranger get close enough to kill them? This was Marco's first post on r/unsolved mysteries. He wasn't even sure if it was a good idea to ask a bunch of unqualified strangers. But posting a hypothetical question on the subreddit at midnight was probably the least likely way to save his father's life. Marco stared at the screen for a long time. No one was replying. Someone just did. The victim must be asleep. That made sense, except that Alberto claimed that he had found Richard Cayo on the floor with a knife in his chest already. If he were awake, he would have fought back. Another Redditor replied, if there's no struggle, my theory is that the victim knew their killer. Nothing came after that. The second stranger had a good point. Marco's father never claimed to know Richard Cayo. In his statement, he said the need for money drove him to theft, and that he chose the Cayo residence for one simple reason. It looked empty. The lights were off, no cars in the driveway, nothing to suggest anyone was home. He picked it at random. Which means if the theory is correct, if Richard Cayo didn't struggle because he knew his killer, then that person wasn't Alberto. But who could it be? That evening, Marco tried to map out the possible suspects. His father's statement to Rael had been clear. The person in that house was a man. That ruled out the wife. Richard had no sons, which left one direction. Someone from his personal or professional life. A relative, a colleague, someone who knew him well enough that Richard Cayo never saw it coming. Marco opened a new tab. The results were thin. A Google business listing, Cayo Pool Services, Tampa, Florida. Established 1987. Closed 2006. A brief obituary from Tampa Bay Times. November 2006. Survived by his wife, Deanna Cayo. No children. No siblings listed. And the business website. Marco clicked on it. It was exactly what you'd expect. A logo. A list of services. A phone number that no longer worked. The kind of website someone once built and never touched again. But at the bottom of the page, there was a testimonial section. Most of them were ordinary. Happy customers, good service, fair prices. The last one, though, was different. Richard knows exactly what he's doing. I just wish he'd be more careful about who he trusted. Posted by JST1967, November 12th, 2006. 2 days before Richard Cayo was killed. The initials and a birth year. That much seemed clear. But knowing that didn't tell him anything on its own. JST1967 didn't appear anywhere else on the internet. He had hit a wall, but he already knew where to go back to. He went back to the Reddit thread, to the stranger who said the victim knew his killer. At this time, he stopped being hypothetical. He admitted that it was his father's case. Alberto Flores had been on death row for 12 years for a murder he didn't commit. Convicted of killing a man named Richard Cayo during a burglary in Tampa in 2006. That his father had sworn from the beginning that there was someone else in that house that night. A man. He mentioned the testimonial, the username, the date, the line about trust. Then he asked, "Does anyone know how to trace a username from an old website?" The thread had been quiet for hours. Then, it wasn't. Marco watched the replies come in faster than he could read them. Redditors were asking questions, offering to help. He had not expected this. But if this was actually going somewhere, he needed it to stay organized. He set up a server that morning, simply named it the Alberto Flores case. By morning, 14 people had joined, and by afternoon, the server had its first breakthrough. Found an older cached photo from the site from 2003. The About page lists two names, Richard Cayo and co-owner, James Santiago Tovar. James Santiago Tovar. That's what the JST meant in the username. Later that afternoon, they found James's LinkedIn profile. The experience section listed 2 entries. This confirmed that he had been working with Cayo for 2 years. But that wasn't the only thing they found interesting. For someone who might have killed a man, he's not exactly keeping a low profile. And honestly, he wasn't wrong. If James Tovar had something to do with Richard Cayo's death, he had all the time to disappear. But he stayed in the same city and managed his own business under his real name. That either means he has nothing to hide, or he was very confident that nobody would ever come looking. Marco took the risk. "Hi, Mr. Tovar. My name is Marco Flores. My father is Alberto Flores. He's been on death row for 12 years for the murder of Richard Cayo. I don't believe he did it. I found your name on an archived version of the Cayo Pool Services website, and I was hoping you'd be willing to talk." Tovar had seen it. He didn't respond. Not that night. The following morning, a reply was waiting. "I wondered if someone would reach out eventually. Yeah, sure. I'll tell you when I know." Over the next few hours, the picture filled in. Tovar was straightforward. He and Richard had built the business together and then watched it become something neither of them had intended. Richard wanted volume, more clients, faster work, lower overhead. Tovar wanted the opposite. The disagreement was never resolved. The day he posted the review was the day he called it quits. "It was the last thing I did that day. I just told Richard I was done. I posted it and I didn't look back. 2 days later, he was dead." He said he'd carried that with him for a long time. Not guilt exactly, just the weight of a coincidence he'd never been able to fully set down. It was a clean story, but Marco had no way of knowing whether Tovar was telling the truth or whether he'd just spent 13 years perfecting the telling of it. Then Tovar sent one more message. "Honestly, I'd expect to hear from the police at the same point after it happened. I was his business partner. We had a public falling out. I figured I'd at least get a call. It never came. I kept my receipts anyway, just in case." Marco asked for them. Within the hour, Tovar sent a document. "Caruso's Restaurante, 7th Avenue, Ybor City, November 14th, 2006. $127.43. Charged at 9:47 p.m. Richard Cayo's time of death was estimated between 10 p.m. and midnight. Ybor City was 40 minutes from Merritt Street in Carrollwood, where Cayo lived. However, the server wasn't fully convinced. A scanned document sent over Facebook could be anything. One user was quick to reply. "Found this photo on his sister's Facebook. James wasn't lying. Look at the timestamp and the clock on this photo." James didn't do it. But someone flagged the last part of Tovar's message. the part that had gotten lost in the alibi verification. Toward the end, though, Richard seemed off, not about the business, something personal. I asked him once if everything was okay at home. He didn't answer directly. He just said he's worried about what happens if he's gone. I've thought about that a lot since he died. That suggested Richard Cayo had been afraid of something, or someone. And whatever it was close to home. Has anyone looked at the wife? The server then turned its attention to Deanna Cayo, thinking she might have a lead to this man Alberto saw that night. She wasn't difficult to find. A Facebook profile, mostly dormant. She stayed unmarried and child-free, but still posted every November 14th without fail. 12 years. My husband didn't deserve what happened. Still thinking about you every day. 1 year ago today, I lost my husband. I will never forget coming home and finding him. Nothing raised a flag. Nothing suggested a woman with anything to hide. She was just a widow who never quite moved on. The server felt almost guilty for checking her. Maybe the theory about his killer being close to him was wrong. Maybe Richard's fear had been about something else entirely, like health, finances, or the slow collapse of a business he'd built from nothing. Maybe worried about what happens if he's gone meant exactly what Tovar had assumed it meant. Maybe Alberto Flores was guilty. Marco had called ahead to schedule the visit. It was the first time in months he'd gone without something to report. A lead, a name, a thread worth pulling. This time, he had nothing. Just himself and whatever time they had left. Alberto looked the same as he always did. Older than he should be. Quieter than he used to be. They talked about small things at first. The weather, a TV show Alberto had been watching in the common room, Marco's classes, the kind of conversation two people have when the real conversation is too heavy to start. Then Marco told him everything. Tovar, the Discord server, the testimonial, the alibi, Deanna's Facebook posts. The server is going quiet. Alberto listened without interrupting. When Marco finished, he was silent for a long time. Then he said, "You did more than any lawyer ever did." Marco didn't know what to do with that. He arrived in the dorm and opened his laptop. The server had been silent for a year. Most of the members hadn't logged on in days. A few had left entirely. "Hey, I know nobody's really here anymore. That's okay. I just wanted to say thank you. Genuinely, you didn't have to care about this, and you did. You found James Tovar. You verified the alibi. You got further than anyone has in 12 years. It wasn't enough, but it was more than nothing. And for a while, it felt like something. My dad's execution is in a week. Thank you." He hit send. His investigation was officially over. "Hey, sorry for bothering you, but I found the real killer." I know who killed Richard Cayo. I can't tell you how I know, but I know. And I know where you need to look. Marco looked at her profile. She had been a lurker on his server, but never once joined the chats. Still, her message gave him hope. In their exchange, Annie explains that her mom is a therapist, that Deanna Cayo had been one of her patients, that she couldn't use anything from those sessions because her mom would lose her career, and that she would get in trouble for secretly reading her records. But she was certain of what she saw. You had access to all of it. I just knew what to look for. And that's the part worth thinking about. Because everything Annie was about to show Marco had been available the entire time. It wasn't buried. It wasn't hidden behind a paywall or a court seal or a locked filing cabinet. The server had come so close. They had found Tovar. They had verified the alibi. They had even looked at Deanna and felt guilty for looking. But they hadn't known what to look for. Annie did. A therapist's kid who has been sitting on this for a long time, building a case from the outside, using only what was already there. Marco typed back, "Okay, show me." She replied, "Check the 911 transcripts again. That's all I can say." Her account was deleted within the hour. Marco never heard from her again. Now here's what's interesting about that. When Annie said Deanna Cayo was one of her mom's patients, it could mean one of two things. First, Diana had confessed to a therapist, which meant Annie's mother knew and couldn't tell a soul. Confidentiality doesn't have an exception for past crimes. Or second, Deanna knew who the real killer was, and for whatever reason, she had chosen to say it only in that room, to one person, who couldn't do anything about it. Either way, it was the only lead Marco had left. 4 days before his father's execution, a stranger had pointed him at a document he had already read. So he read it again. At first, nothing looked different. The same words he had skimmed a dozen times before. A woman calling from her home, panicked, cooperative, until one exchange stopped him. "Where are you, ma'am?" "I'm at home, hiding upstairs. I'm so scared." Marco read it again. Something just wasn't adding up. He went back to Discord, scrolled up, and saw one of the status posts she had made on one of her husband's death anniversaries. "1 year ago today, I lost my husband. I will never forget coming home and finding him." Bingo. For years, Deanna Cayo had stood at her husband's grave, posted candles on his anniversary, written about her grief in public, and built a version of that night that the whole world had accepted without question. She came home, she found him, she called for help. Except she didn't. She was upstairs, in her own house, while her husband was dead on the floor below her. And nobody had ever asked why. At that point, Marco had 3 days before his dad's execution. The Discord server was dead. Annie was gone. He had no lawyer, legal standing, money, or connections. Everything he had tried over the past weeks had either cleared someone who wasn't guilty or hit a wall he couldn't get past. But he had something he hadn't had before, and to make a dent, he needed an army. He went back to where this all started. "My father is being executed in 72 hours for a murder I don't think he committed. I found something. Please help. Alberto Flores, Death Row, Florida. Convicted 2006 for murder of Richard Cayo. His wife Deanna told the world she came home and found him. The 911 transcript says she was already inside the house when she called, hiding upstairs. Both documents are public. I can send them to you. I don't know what to do with this. I don't have a lawyer. I don't have money. I have 3 days. Please." The post spread faster than Marco had ever seen. Within hours, it was everywhere. Shared across subreddits, picked up on Twitter, and screenshotted and reposted by people who had never heard of Alberto Flores until that night. A civil rights attorney in Tampa read it at midnight. By morning, she had filed an emergency motion to stay the execution. By July 5th, investigators had Deanna Cayo in a room. They put 2 documents in front of her, her own words. The 911 transcript, side by side. She had an explanation ready. She always had an explanation ready. But then they told her about the blade. The original analysis had been surface level. Alberto's prints were on the handle. The case was closed, and nobody looked deeper. But with the investigation now formally reopened, forensic analysts ran a full examination of the original evidence. What they found was small, but it was everything. Alberto's prints were on the handle, exactly where you'd expect them, where anyone would grip a knife if they just pulled it from a man's chest in a panic. But Diana's prints were on the spine of the blade. That's not where your hand lands in a panic. That position requires deliberate placement, a thumb resting along the spine, controlling the blade itself. Diana had no explanation for that. She was cornered. She had no choice but to tell them the truth. According to her confession, the night went something like this. Richard came home tired. They had dinner. Nothing that would have made him look twice at his wife across the table. Well, maybe except her haircut. A bob cut, short to the jaw. She had gotten it that day. When she went into the kitchen after dinner, she followed with the knife behind her back. She hugged him. He didn't see it coming. It was over before he understood what was happening. That was why the forensic report had noted no signs of a struggle. Not because a stranger had caught him off guard in the dark, because the person he trusted most had been standing right in front of him. She had taken out a life insurance policy on Richard 8 months earlier. He had signed it without asking why. And her haircut had explained why Alberto thought he saw a man. The case was solved. Alberto Flores was exonerated on August 19, 2021. Diana Cayo was charged with first-degree murder. She took a plea deal, life without parole. The lead detective on the original case retired 3 months after the investigation was reopened. And Marco Flores graduated in December 2021. His father was in the audience. But here's what I can't stop thinking about. None of it happens without a bunch of strangers who had absolutely no reason to care. That's what saved his life. The internet.